Erlang then hits him with the Frieza treatment.
A monkey. He's a monkey, a monkey. Look, monkey.
I've fallen, and I can't get up!
Man, I fell down to my knees when the law came.
Now, I tell you what, I like you, and I want you. Now, we can do this the easy way, or we can do it the hard way. The choice is yours.
Well, I don't think you and I will be doing anything any kind of way.
Jesus.
Who did it, Raiden? Show me. Raiden, show me who did it. She kind of bad, though. Is that Frost?
What it does do, everybody, it's your boy Zenkai, and today I'm talking about Black Myth Wukong. This is one of the first AAA games out of China, and boy did they cook. It's based around the story of Sun Wukong and the myth Journey to the West. Fun fact, I've actually never read Journey to the West, or really know much about it. The only things I knew about Sun Wukong were from Smite and Dragon Ball. So at most I knew his name. He's a monkey king. He can transform. He rides the flying Nimbus. Has some healing abilities. There's a fan that puts out fire. And he has an extending pole. What is this weapon called?
金箍棒.
I would describe it almost like a bow staff with cudgels on each end. I have no idea how effective it would be in actual combat. But it looks cool in game. It's also kind of crazy. My name is Zenkai. I haven't read Journey to the West. That's got to be a crime. If y'all would be interested, I'd be down to make some videos doing a live reading of Journey to the West. Just let me know what the best source is for reading that. In English, preferably, because I can't read Chinese. Anyways, I 100%ed the game yesterday, so I'm feeling mighty qualified to share my opinion. I also find it kind of neat that they decided to do 81 achievements to symbolize the 81 trials she underwent during the Journey to the West. This video will touch on just about everything from the game, including a story deep dive, gameplay, music, both dubs, world design, as well as the game's performance and any bugs or glitches I encountered. There will be spoilers related to the story and characters ahead. You have been warned. Dub versus sub, the classic debate. I played at the Chinese dub in my first playthrough and the English dub in my New Game Plus playthrough. Honestly, I thought they were both fine.
What took you so long? Constipation? I was nearly cooked alive in there.
I can't speak to the quality of the Chinese dub ratings because, well, I have no idea if they're even saying the words good at all. And hell, before this game, I hadn't watched a single thing in Chinese. Not even anime. I can't speak to the English pronunciation of Chinese words and names. I'm sure they butchered them, but I can't really tell. There are also some voices like the Headless Keeper in Chapter 2 switching from Chinese to Scottish. That's somewhat silly.
桥刀姐姐黄不比，时候思你不思你。
This body of yours is perfect for the art of rock solid. Rock solid. Hit the back. Hit the back.
The worst part of the English dub is actually the matching of the lip flaps. Much like an anime game, the English dub hardly matched the Chinese lip flaps in a lot of the cutscenes. It's so bad that sometimes characters will laugh or talk with their mouth still closed. If you don't know what I mean, just watch this clip real quick.
He shut his doors and made me prisoner in this lair. Tales speak of these insatiable spider guys.
This is more of a dubbing problem than it is a game problem. It's just not possible to keep the same script for both languages because the mouth movements are never going to be completely one-to-one when translated. I also can't speak to how the lines are recorded, or if there was even like a director there to make sure the lines matched up like at all. You can play it in whatever language you want. They're both good, but I prefer the Chinese just because it's a bit more immersive and it doesn't have this problem.
Big day! Big day! Big day! Big day! Big day!
Shut it.
Is the story even good? gonna get one thing clear here. The story in this game is actually very good. It's not the best I've ever seen, and I definitely was confused at various parts in the game, but I think a lot of it ended up making more sense in my second playthrough. I'm sure it also makes a lot more sense for people that have read the novel or seen the show, but I'm gonna try my absolute best to tell the whole story, including some parts of Journey to the West, you know, as told by other people. Huge shout out to this guy and this guy for helping me understand the story more. I really recommend reading through both of their posts if you have the time. Really interesting reads. Lastly, I'm certainly going to get things wrong here. I've read like 5 different perspectives of the Bajie and Chang'e story, and they're all different, so I don't even know what is and isn't correct anymore. I also have like zero idea how anyone knows what's going on in this mythology. Like, from what I've seen, it almost seems like each adaptation of a story, you know, has its own unique events, and they all end up like contradicting each other, and you just kind of end up picking one and you stick with it. Like, for example, like, let's do a little quiz. What is Chang'e? Is it A, a name, B, a title, C, a person, or D, all of the above? Time starts now. Yeah, it was all of the above. It can refer to the actual goddess, a name, or a title that refers to the celestial maidens in the Moon Palace. You're going to see that later on in the story, where names and titles are kind of interchangeable, which seems to be a common thing in this mythology. So if you read like names and you're confused, like, well, isn't that like a person? Like, how are they referring to? It's probably a title that's also a person. That's also a name. Yeah, I know, right? It's confusing. So, consider this story. Hou Yi's Pills of Immortality. Earlier stories depict her stealing them to avoid her husband, Hou Yi. Newer stories say that thieves broke in and she kind of, like, unwittingly ate the immortality pills. And then I saw another story, and it reminded me a lot of the events in this game, in Strange Stories from the Chinese studio, which, my god, it's old-ass movie. I think it's from, like, the 1700s. While Chang'e remains a celestial being from heaven, her character undergoes a transformation and she descends to the mortal realm, shedding her divinity. The only reason I mention this is because it reminds me a lot of the Violet Spider in Chapter 4. My point is, there are so many conflicting adaptations, and it's an absolute mess to make sense of. Also, can we talk about how dark this is? When Hou Yi discovered what transpired, you know, with the thieves and her swallowing the pills, he felt responsible for Chang'e. So he displayed the fruits and cakes that his wife had enjoyed, and then he killed himself. I hope that gives you an idea of what I'm working with here. Buckle up. This is going to be the longest part of the video by far. Hell, it could be its own video, but it's not. And obviously, story spoilers ahead. You have been warned. So the game starts with Wukong descending Mount Huaguo on his Nimbus to go fight Erling Shen, the 4 Heavenly Kings, and an army from the Celestial Court. Why are they there? Apparently, there were a lot of rules associated with becoming the victorious fighting Buddha, and Wukong wasn't really having it because he's a monkey. Rules aren't really in his nature.
All I ever wanted was a life in my mountain, free from you and your so-called merits. But what I don't understand is, you bastards killing my kind!
So he ended up resigning from his position, and he just wanted to chill out at his mount. The Celestial Court did not like that, so here we are. We also get a first look into his character, and we really see that he does fit the description of a mischievous monkey, but a powerful warrior.
All these years, except for that pig, you're the one who talks the tallest tales. Wouldn't it be fun if I pluck your extra eye out for my snack?
Erling then hits him with the Frieza treatment.
A monkey. He's a monkey, a monkey. Look, monkey.
The fight continues to play out, with the army being absolutely devastated by the fallout of their battle.
I've fallen, and I can't get up!
The 4 Heavenly Kings were not having it, so they start to jump Wukong.
You picked the wrong house, fool!
But he manages to escape towards the mountain with Erlang Shen following quickly behind. Suddenly, we see a golden circle appear on Wukong's head. Erlang pounces on this opportunity to end the life of the great sage.
Man, I fell down to my knees when the law came.
Apparently, this is called the Golden Headband. It was placed on his journey by Bodhisattva Guanyin, and when used by Wukong's master, Tang Senzang, it causes him great pain and to obey his master. Yeah, bro, I hope I'm not butchering those names. Tang Senzang, Guanyin, Bodhisattva, Chang'e, Bajie. That ends the short but sweet prologue of the game. Absolutely goated. Perfect way to start the game off. I wish more games would do the start menu into prologue idea, like God of War. I mean, it looks so cool. And people are starting to really get sick of loading screens. Bethesda. I swear to God, Shattered Space better be good, or me and that company are gonna have some problems. So the old monkey finishes telling us his story, and we meet our protagonist, the Destined One. I don't think he actually has a name, since he's just a random monkey, but the resemblance is uncanny. But what exactly is he destined for? You will discover that in the later chapters. However, we are told that Wukong has split into 6 relics representing his senses, and our goal is to retrieve them.
One that shall recover all his scattered relics, and upon the return of the relics to Mount Tuaguo, he may yet rise again.
The first chapter is called Black Cloud, Red Fire, and takes place at Blackwind Mountain. It should be noted that each area has its own plot line, which is additionally explained in a beautiful animation with gorgeous music at the end of each chapter. There are also recurring characters that can appear in side quests, like the horse Guaymatiamba, or I believe this is Litigui, one of the 8 immortals. The past of this area is as follows. Jinchi was friends with a black bear as a child, and he seemed to have an interest in material things. As an elder, Jinchi met Sanzang and wanted his treasured kasaya for himself. A kasaya it's basically a traditional piece of clothing with strong religious ties to Buddhism. You planned to acquire the kasaya by burning Sanzang, but instead of burning him, he ended up burning Guanyin Temple to the ground. The bear asks Guanyin why Jinchi covets the kasaya if he is to be free of his worldly desires. Guanyin retorts that Jinchi wears it as a sign of his status as High Monk, which is ultimately hypocritical. Black Bear ends up stealing the kasaya, and his friends, Ling Shushi and the white-clad noble, are killed for interfering in something he shouldn't have. The Black Bear is then sent to the Southern Sea as means of religious integration into the system by Guanyin. Our protagonist, the Destined One, arrives after the bear is done studying, which is shown by the rebuilt Guanyin Temple. The bear has but one desire: to resurrect his friends. He resurrected Ling Shushi first, but upon learning of the sacrifice required, he ended up hanging himself. He then resurrected Elder Jinchi, but his soul was incomplete, and he now wanders as a lost ghost. The bear decided to stop resurrecting his friends.
You're a fucking idiot.
And instead bestow their names upon Yaoguai like titles. Like, remember that Chang'e thing I mentioned. A group of lesser Yaoguai end up worshipping the bear, and they covet him for his ability to resurrect the dead. But this was only a byproduct of the Great Sage's relic that he had received from participating in Wukong's death. The Destined One defeats the bear and retrieves the relic. With the relic recovered, so continues our journey. Chapter 2, Yellow Sand, Desolate Dusk. This takes place in Yellowwind Ridge. So, the Yellowwind Sage, like the Black Bear Gwai, was taken to a Buddhist temple by Lingyi Bodhisattva to become a part of the system. Long ago, Wukong enlisted the help of Lingyi Bodhisattva, using the Wind Tamer Pearl for a trial. This event is special in this game because it is central to the Drunken Boar questline and reviews the Golden Kingdom of Sahali. This kingdom initially revered Buddha, but the king ended up abolishing Buddhism. As a result, Fubin, the giant insect, appeared. The Yellow Wind Sage used his divine wind to capture the insect, which worked until Wukong beat him during his journey and he was taken away by Lingyi Bodhisattva. The sage gone, Fubin ran rampant and destroyed the kingdom. He later received a relic for his role in Wukong's death, but was not able to fully utilize the power.
Yet hindered by his meager might, he could not absorb its power.
The secret area in the game is actually a glimpse into the past, which is why the Yellow Wind Sage appears in 2 separate areas of the game, as an ally in the past and your main enemy in the future. Additionally, we are told the story of a scholar who saves a white fox. He has a dream about the fox transforming into a beautiful woman, they have children, but it turns into a nightmare with the fox slaughtering his family.
Now, I tell you what, I like you, and I want you. Now, we can do this the easy way, or we can do it the hard way. The choice is yours.
Well, I don't think you and I will be doing anything any kind of way.
Jesus. We learn more about what happened in a future chapter, but this is what is said about it.
They say mortals and Yao Guais walk different paths, but it's after seeing him again that I understood. Those who fear Yao Guais are fouler than what they fear.
With the relic recovered, so continues our journey. Chapter 3, White Snow Ice Gold, takes place in the New West. Long ago, Wukong found Yellowbrows in his fake Western Heaven, where he was a self-proclaimed Buddha. Wukong was trapped with a golden symbol, but the 28 constellations and Kangjin Star helped him. Wukong led the 28 constellations, 8 true dragons, the Turtle Snake Generals, Little Prince Zhang, and the 4 demon captains, all of whom were caught by Yellowbrows with his bag. Now, Buddha Maitreya decided to assist with the matter, and Yellowbrows was taken back as his assistant. When the Destined One arrives, Yellowbrows has reopened the New West and holds grand assemblies for immortals and deities alike. The 4 demon captains were defeated, and the prince barely survived. The Turtle General was frozen into an island, and the Snake General was cut into a skeleton. Kangjin was bewitched by Yellowbrows and converted to his cult. Maitreya guides the Destined One various times throughout this part, implying they are merely using Yellowbrows as a sort of trial for the Destined One. The end cutscene shows the story of a turtle-like Yao Guai that yields treasure when it bleeds.
Oh, that's nasty.
The villagers worship the creature until eventually brutally murdering it in an act of immense greed. We see Jin Chanzi, which is actually a reincarnation of Sanzang. He ends up chastising the creature for childishly tempting people to prove a point.
You chose a means to an end, not to a proof. You sow chaos in hearts just for the sake of winning. How absurd and pathetic.
This creature, if you couldn't tell, is actually Yellowbrow, and he believes humans are below them because of their greed, which Sanzang inherently disagrees with. With the relic recovered, so continues our journey. Chapter 4, Rosy Cheeks, Gray Hair. This takes place in the Webbed Hollow. Oh god! This is the worst goon cave ever! I don't want a goon anymore! I don't want a goon anymore, I'm sorry! This chapter is both about the story of Zhu Bajie and the 100-Eyed Taoist. So, Bajie originally held the title of Martial Canopy, or Tianping Marshal, and he was the commander-in-chief of 80,000 celestial sailors. At this point, he was still human, and he was up in the celestial realm. At a party with many important figures, he drunkenly tried to seduce Chang'e, the goddess of the moon, as well as a palace maid who might have also been Chang'e. As I said before, names are titles, titles are names. It's very confusing. So Chang'e ends up reporting this to the Jade Emperor, where Tianping was subsequently banished to the mortal realm and supposedly cursed to lifetimes of tragic love. Tianping ends up becoming Zhu Bajie, and the maid that he talked with earlier ends up becoming the Violet Spider. I believe she even gave up her divinity in order to go to the mortal realm to meet with him, or I don't know, the YouTube comment might have lied to me. Anyways, during the journey to the west, they form a deep connection and even have a child.
Hideous! Hideous spider! Who fathered such a thing?
When it comes to one-year-old Dante, Pierre, you are the father.
But eventually, they lose each other along the way due to Bajie worrying about his curse. She still thinks of him and wishes to remarry him as soon as she sees him.
I have been waiting for so long.
So moving to the 100-Eyed Taoist, after the murder of Wukong, he was sent back to the Temple of the Yellow Followers. He fell into the hands of Kunlun Langwon, where the Queen Mother of the West bestowed golden cocoons from Celestial Land, and the Rooster of the Sun was given by Maitreya. Maitreya ordered the Taoist to plant the cocoon into the Rooster of the Sun, and this ended up creating Dusk Veil. The other cocoon fell into Purple Cloud Mountain and developed into a strange insect. When people ate its eggs, they would turn into insect Yaoguai with greater power, and they named this process evolution and ascension. However, these Yaoguai were sought after by the Celestial Court because they could be refined into immortal pills and golden pills. The Venerable Lord Lao and the Queen Mother of the West made it into a prison for Yaoguai to fulfill this end. Unfortunately for them, the Destined One overcame them, and the Violet Spider was way too in love with Bajie to actually fulfill her role of killing him.
You haven't changed a bit. You fool.
So with the Lark recovered, so continues our journey. Chapter 5, Golden Child, Crimson Blood. This takes place in Flame Mountain. Many years ago, Wukong fought the Red Boy and invited Guan Yin to take the Red Boy in. They encountered the Bull Demon King, and Wukong ended up subduing him with the help of all the gods in Celestial. When the Buddhist realm exterminated the Yaksha race, Lord Lao saved the son of the Yaksha king. However, no Yaksha was allowed to live, so instead, Lao could only collect his essence. His eventual disciple, the Bull Demon King's wife, Princess Ironfan, or Rakshasi, was forced to drink the water from the river of childbearing to give birth to a child to preserve the Yaksha bloodline.
What do you mean by that?
This Yaksha is the Red Boy. The Bull Demon King played a part in killing Wukong to eventually return to his mountain, and he also received a relic in the process. He had been forced to kill his sworn brother, and he could never overcome his guilt, and he was never really the same.
Fears have grown in me. Fear of war. Fear of death. Fear of my wife. Fear of my son.
So the Red Boy learned of his origins, and he demanded the relic from his father to enact revenge for the Yaksha. The old bull ended up refusing, knowing the danger that his son would face. The old bull vehemently refused, and this resulted in the Red Boy leading a rebellion against his father. So one of the first people we meet in the story at this part is the daughter of the Bull Demon King, Ping Ping, and she wishes to help her father. To do that, we need to acquire the Plantain Fan from Rakshasi to put out her brother's flames. Princess Ironfan asks for Lord Lao's help, but he merely stated, "You two shouldn't interfere, and naturally the disaster will be resolved." Upon reaching the Bull Demon King, it's revealed that Ping Ping has been the Red Boy all along.
Who did it, Raiden? Show me. Raiden, show me who did it. She kinda bad though. Is that Frost?
fight ensues. After his defeat,
I don't want to do this no more.
The Bull Demon King gives the Destined One the relic, but the Red Boy used a fake death talisman to claim the relic at that very moment. By devouring the relic, he becomes the Yaksha King. Even though his power was amplified, he still proved no match for the Destined One. Rakshasi begs for her son to be spared and offers her fan and familial solitude in the mountain in return. The Red Boy, ideologically, the Red Boy sees the Destined One as a spokesperson for those that slaughtered his people, so he decides to end his life rather than to submit to his tormentors again, which is why he does what he does in the game. And also, side note, a question for those of you that know, is Ping Ping a real character? Or is she just made up in the game? Because in the game, like, they mention her, like, he says, like, you are not my daughter. And then, like, the Red Boy, like, mentions, like, I'll have to speak to her later about this, which implies that she's actually real. But, like, I went on to Google, I looked up stuff about her, I couldn't find anything about her. Like, so is she just made up for this game? Anyways, let me know, guys. So, with the relic recovered, so continues our journey. Chapter 6, Unfinished. This takes place in Mount Huaguo, and starts with celestial soldiers coming to suppress the Destined One alongside Bajie. This is odd because most of what we've been doing at this point has really been considered in service to the Celestial Court, so why are they attacking us? It almost seems like the Celestial Court has given the relics of Wukong to the Buddhist realm as a method of weakening him.
师姐，事已至此，你还不明白吗？是谁让他回来的？那些东西当真是修炼至宝？只怕我们一个个自作聪明，到头来反倒成了助他还魂的祭品。
Because the Destined One kills those with the relics. So actually, it seems like for the entire game, we have been doing what Wukong set out to not do, bend the knee to the Celestial Court.
Destined, deprived, it's all the same. Don't ever believe their bullshit. You are your choices. Causes and effects, not what you're called.
So the Destined One and Bajie reach a dead end, and they have an encounter with the Supreme Celestial Inspector, of which Bajie has had a previous run-in with. Fun fact, the hand is apparently supposed to be a copy of the Jade Emperor's hand, and he apparently received it as an award. I don't remember the exact reason, but it was like, whenever you enter a room, it is as if I myself am there. That was kind of the idea. So anyways, the Destined One climbs on top of it, and he ends up destroying the hand by like ripping it open. It's fucking cool. It sends them plummeting to the ground. However, he ends up getting saved by Wukong's Somersault Cloud. Yep, the Flying Nimbus. The rest of this chapter is dedicated to recovering the armor of Wukong by defeating various bosses in the area. And once the Destined One is ready, they enter the stone at the beginning of the game and meet the old monkey once again. He reveals that son Wukong has actually been dead the entire time.
Hold on. You mean Wukong's gone for good? Never to return? You old bastard! You've been lying to us all this time!
That Wukong you knew will never return. But what made him remains.
The Destined One isn't meant to revive the Great Sage. They are to inherit his name.
The universe will always bear him a successor. One who shall carry on his name and nature. This chosen successor is the Destined One. Nameless you were, yet perils and mighty foes you've braved to recover his relics. Your will now stands resolute, worthy of his power.
You mean this boy is to take Wukong's name? He's not.
Soon Wukong is long gone.
The final test is to defeat the shell of Wukong and unite the relics. Even without his senses, the shell proves to be a pretty fearsome foe, and funnily enough, the shell still exhibits some of his more quirky personality traits. So the Destined One ends up defeating the shell, and he unites 5 out of the 6 relics and inherits the name of Sun Wukong. This is the default ending of the game, and arguably a bad ending, because the Destined One is still bound to the crown and his destiny, where he'll be forced to continue the cycle forever until another Destined One shows up to end his life. And also, since he has received the crown, he's forever a slave to the Celestial Court, which is a huge reason why Wukong wanted to end the cycle. We can achieve the other ending by traveling to the Great Pagoda inside of Pagoda Realm, and it's possible to enter the mural inside and visit May Mountain. There, the Destined One confronts Erlang Shen and the 4 Heavenly Kings.
I've been thinking of you every day since.
Such power must be new to you.
Defeating Erlang reveals that he actually sent a group to intercept and retrieve the final lost relic, the True Mind Sense. With this, all 6 senses have come together and destiny can finally be shirked.
And only now do I understand that fight. No prestige can shackle him. No band can keep him caged. A mortal death for an unbound mind and will. May you not fail him.
It seems Wukong ended his own life to rid himself of one thing, the golden circlet on his head, binding him to eternal servitude. This is why the first ending could be considered bad, because the Destined One is still bound to the crown. It then ends with a beautiful animation of Wukong's journey before cutting to the credits.
What does it matter if you become a Buddha? That headband has always been on your head.
Keep those eyes wide open. Watch me rip it off and break free.
Bottoms up, brothers! One final toast before we crash the Celestial Palace!
That was kind of a lot, I know. I tried my absolute best to hit all the important beats throughout the story. I just hope you understand it at least a little bit better now. Alright, let's move on from the story. Let's take a look at the combat and a lot of the gameplay mechanics. Alright guys, what's going on? If you're here, that means you made it through the story section, and my god, I commend you for that. I wasn't expecting that to be so damn long. We got a lot to talk about here, so I'm gonna try to keep this part of the video a little less scripted and just give you my honest thoughts about the combat. The combat in this game is very good. Unfortunately, I am in like the end of New Game Plus right now, so I actually don't really have many bosses to show off or anything. The only bosses I can fight are the last boss and Yin Tiger over there, so I'm probably gonna have to show all my points using Yin Tiger, which is fine because Yin Tiger is a hard boss for most people. So the combat in this game, it's built around 3 staff stances called Smash Stance, Pillar Stance, and Thrust Stance. The names are pretty self-explanatory. Smash Stance is more like your close to mid-range. Like realistically, this is the stance you're using at the start of the game, and I feel like once you progress further into the game, you're probably not actually going to be using Smash Stance anywhere near as much, or on the flip side, you are only using Smash Stance. I feel like this game plays a lot like Ghost of Tsushima in that regard, because that game also has stances, in which case that game has 4 stances. Like when I played Ghost of Tsushima, I only used Water Stance, and Water Stance was primarily good against shielded enemies. I'm sure I could have used like Wind Stance, all the other ones, but I didn't really feel like it, and there wasn't any point. It's a very similar aspect to this game, where theoretically you could just play the entire game with a singular stance. If you New Game Plus, I believe 3 or 4 times, you unlock a 4th stance. Well, not really unlock, it's more so like a secret stance. So like when you're in like the final battle of the game, you unlock like this Sun Wukong stance where like your focus attacks are super empowered. I wasn't like a huge fan of that stance. I mean, it does like a lot of damage, so that's good, but I wasn't like a huge fan of it or anything. And speaking of focus is, it's just a gauge building system where you like dodge and you attack and it'll build your focus, and you expend these focus points that you gain. You get it from focused attack over here, and you have up to 4 focus points. Now going back to the stances and what they're good at. So Smash Stance, obviously, it's up close and personal, and it uses something called a resolute strike, where you can see through an incoming enemy attack. Now, this is actually a mechanic that I damn near never used in this game, because if you engage a heavy attack without focus points, it kind of like locks you into an animation. It feels a lot like a Souls-like in that regard, even though this game is not a Souls-like. It feels like that in that regard, and it feels absolutely terrible. So I practically never used the see-through. It looks pretty cool though when you actually pull it off correctly. Since this stance is up close and personal, this is the closest you're gonna get to parrying in this game. This game doesn't actually have a parrying system like Sekiro. And you see here with like Skyfall Strike, this is what makes Smash Stance more mid-range, because you can pull off a little bit further attacks like this. Other than that, there's not really much else to Smash Stance. Now, Pillar Stance is what I primarily used for most of the game. I like how dynamic it is, because it can be up close and personal like Smash Stance, but as you can see, you can also, since the more focus points you have, it actually gets better the further you are in the game, because you can go further up on your staff, and it allows you to kind of cheese much more bosses, because they might just not be able to hit you. They'll only hit your staff, and if you have a shit ton of stamina, you will be on that staff for a long time. And you'll also see right here, normally when you run out of stamina, you'll fall off, but instead you'll still execute a heavy attack with Towering Mountain. And it's also possible, I actually didn't even know about this focus point requirement, but if you perch on top of your staff, you can actually drink your gourd, which is, it's kind of goated. Like generally, I just think this is the most dynamic stance of all of them. And then Sweeping Gale. Sweeping Gale is really good for AoE. So if you want to attack like a group of enemies, I think Sweeping Gale is probably the weakest part of Pillar Stance. And this This is pretty common, where each stance like gives you a damage reduction when you're doing its abilities or like heavy attacks. That's common. Then Churning Gale, it's kind of like a combo after you do Sweeping Gale, and I actually like Churning Gale. I think Churning Gale actually does a decent amount of damage and it's also pretty good at hitting the enemy. And it gives you a bit of invincibility, which is pretty good. Thrust Stance, I have the least experience with Thrust Stance. I'm not gonna lie, I think this is the pussy stance. I think you just sit far away and you just spam bosses with this. I don't really like this stance at all. Like, as you can see, it's built around long range. You go in, you attack them, you hit them a couple of times, then you tactical retreat. It's not quite for me. There's that. I'm not gonna lie, like the way like he's getting hit with the staff right there, and like he's not getting like repeatedly hit back. It's kind of just like bouncing off of his body right there. I don't really like that. It's got crit. I mean, it's also got its own type of like parrying. I don't think I've ever actually pulled this off, so I don't even know if this is good. See, now this is kind of crazy, gaining brief invincibility, which I think that, like, that aura around you, like, that's a pretty long invincibility window. Yeah, so anyway, I like Pillar Stance the most. Now, Foundation's about what you would expect. You can increase your endurance, you get less stamina cost when you're dodging. This one is really important, Composure. It'll allow you to not interrupt your attack combo while dodging, which you will do that a lot. It'll be very frequent where an enemy is like designed to hit you like right when your combo is gonna end, but if you actually dodge out and then you dodge back in or you hit them, it works. It's such a fluid movement. It's really good. More stamina cost reduction, perfect dodges. Perfect dodges are similar across like many games, so get extra light attack distance. This will help you engage your target from further away, get more focus gain. This is how you deflect arrows from like projectile enemies. I don't really like ever use this. I don't think it's really all that necessary. It looks cool, and it also does damage. Maybe there are some like cool builds you can do with it. I just don't really see the point. Like, you could just be dodging through all those arrows right there, and you'd be going like 5 times faster. That's just the way I feel about it. You'd be going so much faster. Yeah, some more like light attack stuff. All this just increases your stats. Thing is, in this game, there's a lot of like, there's stances, there's mysticism, alteration, your strand, transformations. There's a lot of stuff to spend your points on. I would not sleep on stats. I think investing a bunch of points into stats very early on into the game is actually very important. For example, I think I invested heavily into health and defense. And generally, it made the game a lot easier to have all that health. In the Mysticism tree, we got Immobilize, Ring of Fire, Spellbinder. Immobilize is probably what you're going to be running, unless you specifically want to use Spellbinder for a boss. I mean, the only thing that Spellbinder does is that it seals away like all your magic, and it just lets you attack harder, which, that is helpful. If you also look here, like, you can get rid of 4 Banes, you'll get health at the end of it, less stamina cost, increase the ratio of mana converted to attack, so you get more damage from your mana, and you get more crit chance. So it's probably very good for, like, a crit build. A Ring of Fire, I'm not too sure why most people would use this. I don't like it. So judging by the demo pictures, I think the best use of Ring of Fire would probably just be camping in it and using thrust stance on people. As I said, pussy stance. Yeah, it gives you your health back. Yeah, this pairs together with your pussy stance. I guess we can call this the maxi pad mysticism ability. You got Cloud Step and Rock Solid. I don't really like Rock Solid. Times I've been forced to use Rock Solid in the game, I don't really like it. I feel like Rock Solid.
What? Bro, what are you talking about, man?
You have to look at this. You have to invest a point into it in order to cancel it. Like, are you for real? Like, you got less cooldown, some damage reduction, you get a little bit of more light attack damage, focus, and you get mana, which That could possibly be good if you're going into a full mysticism build and you need mana regen. I would need to experiment. I would need to actually see how much mana regen that is to even see if it's worth it, because if you're using rock solid purely for its mana regen and it's not like a surplus, that's pretty awful. So anyways, like Cloud Step, I think Cloud Step's the way to go. It makes you invisible. It's really as simple as that. And it's also going to make you have a higher crit chance. And if you see here, the way it works is like they're attacking your decoy. So you can just water off and do whatever the hell you want. And you can do like Unveiling Strike, Absolute Strike. You can see that it's a bit more mana hungry, but you get more damage. It's what you like. Pluck of Many. I would assume this is what a Souls-like player would consider summons in this game. Pluck of Many is extremely strong. You summon a bunch of clones, it beat up your opponent. It's really as simple as that. It's pretty mana hungry, but the damage is generally worth it. And once you get to Volition here, where your clones can also use Immobilize, Ring of Fire, and Rock Solid, the ability just starts to get insane. If you use this ability, you will probably be doing, like, at most, probably around half their health bar. Now, Life Saving Strand, I have not used this yet because you unlock this in New Game Plus, and the thing is about New Game Plus is it's kind of a cakewalk. It's so much easier than just like a regular playthrough. There isn't really a whole lot of point in me even using Life Saving Strand, because like if I die, like something horrible has happened. Like I am probably dead. I'm dead in my chair. I have passed out. I'm having a heart attack. Like my thumbs aren't working. My controller is across the room somewhere. Like something has to go terribly wrong for me to be dying in New Game Plus. So as you can probably tell, if you use it before you die, you stop being dead, which is pretty cool. You also regen gourd uses, which I could potentially see a realm where, no, I really couldn't. Why would you ever take this over Pluck of Many? Yeah, it's just weird. It's weird that they give you this ability in New Game Plus when arguably you don't need it. Transformations. There's a lot of points you can invest here. I haven't really invested anything into any of this. It's just a whole bunch of stat increases, you know, all that good stuff. It's really nothing too special there. So that's really the main core of your combat. Now, relics add a bit more to like your bonuses. So like relics, these are the main things we're trying to collect throughout the game. So each playthrough, you'll have the opportunity to collect 6 of them, and in each New Game Plus, you can actually collect them again and select another. So theoretically, if you do 2 New Game Pluses, you will have every single one of these bonuses. And some of these bonuses are absolutely bonkers, especially this Freed Mind here. Read this. Unified Minds. When the Destined One performs certain powerful moves, the duplicates will follow suit. So, like, what does that mean? You use a 4 focus ability, and bam, all the clones use it at the same time. Yeah. Any powerful ability you use, the clones will copy you. It also, it increases your light attack damage. That's just free damage every single time you're hitting an enemy. I got, like, dodge, invincibility duration. Spread the Word's pretty cool. You can immobilize in an AoE instead of single target. This one gives, like basic bonuses, like you get like more resistance, health, or like invincibility durations, perfect dodges, like the rock solid parries, your Ring of Pussy. So this game has a ridiculous amount of collectibles. So all of these are separate weapons that you make. Some of these you unlock in New Game Plus, some you unlock in your first game. You gotta unlock. It's a lot of weapons, and a lot of them have like their own builds based on their unique effects. Like some of these are kind of like gimmicky. Like for example, like I'm using the Dark Iron Staff, and this one will boost my attack damage based on my defense. And since I'm using the Bull Demon King armor, which is a defense heavy build, I will be doing more damage all the time. And then there's these things called vessels. Now you acquire these throughout various points in the game, typically through like the secret areas, and they help you out with certain bosses in the game by making them easier. They also have like pretty useful activation effects you see. Like this one gives you like burn immunity, which is very useful for chapter 5. Wind Tamer, I'm not sure who this is useful against. The Weaver's Needle is really good against the 100-Eye Taoist. I use this one all the time. It's alright. Now, I've seen the Plantain Fan. I haven't actually used the Plantain Fan all that much, but I've seen it do a ridiculous amount of damage to Erlang Shen, which I'm not too sure what's going on with that. That might actually just be specially effective against him, or the Plantain Fan might just be broken. So keeping in line with the weapons, there's a ridiculous amount of armor sets in this game, all with their own effects. It's honestly pretty crazy, the amount of collectibles there are in this game. And then we got gourds. So gourds are how you get your health back in this game. You just tap LB and you'll drink from the gourd, and these are some of these you are improving throughout the entire game by picking up like awakened wine worms and I forget what they're called, like Luoja vines, something like that. Actually, it would be a good idea to like just show you right here. So you meet this guy, the Shen Monkey, in chapter 1, and he is the primary guy who upgrades your gourds and drinks. So, you see, I already have all my gourds upgraded. Now, additionally, gourds can equip soaks. Now, soaks, as you can see, they have special abilities. Some more broken than others. Now, drinks. I'd be interested to see what the final lamb brew is. I would have to start a new game plus in order to see what this lamb brew is. It's kind of unfortunate, but Jade Dew is generally the strongest in this game. 55% of your max health each sip. You get 10 sips with the max gourd, so it's very good. If you're wondering what all the gourds are for, so you'll see at the top there, like, the Supreme Gourd is arguably the best gourd, but just because it gives you the most gourds. Now, like these other gourds, they give you like special effects. Like you get like attack. This one like halves your health recovery, but you get more attack. This one grants burn resistance. You get chill immunity, stuff like that. We got 2 more things to cover. We got curios. Now you start the game with, I believe, 2 curio slots, and I'm gonna sound like a broken record here. Curios just add special effects to your stuff. So like, for example, you get more experience, you get more will, you ignore the resistance. I actually have never seen Maitreya's orb successful like a single time. Now, honestly, I don't like worry too much about curios. There's not a whole lot of reason to min-max in this game. Like, I'm using Jade Moon Rabbit, Gold Sun Crow here just because they're like a paired item. Tiger Tendon's really good for like see-through attacks. And then of course, ignoring the enemy's resistances, that's broken. And then we got transformations. Transformations are picked up from a variety of enemies in this game. So if you actually go over to your journal here, you see we got Lesser Yaoguai, Yaoguai Kings, and Yaoguai Chiefs. So typically these transformations are going to be Lesser Yaoguais and Yaoguai Chiefs, and what they simply allow you to do is you can like use an effect from them. So I haven't really seen what all of these do in this game. So it'd probably depend on like what build you want to do. Like, as soon as I saw what the Earth Wolf does, I didn't even want to use any of the other ones. I like the Earth Wolf just because it's huge. It's really easy to hit things, but there is like a problem with Earth Wolf. Like sometimes if the enemy isn't like feeling like getting staggered, you'll just like glide right past them and it feels awful. Like some of these, like the Bajie, this one's like kind of like more like long range. It's not like, I've tried to use Guangmo. I don't really like it. I mean, it's good for like a poison build. Wandering Wight is pretty important if for like acquiring the long scales if you like fuck up in that prince area in chapter 2. And just to briefly mention, like where I'm at right now is by talking to Chenlong, he'll give you the Ruyi scroll, and that's where we are right now. We're in the Ruyi scroll. There's also this thing called the Incense Trail Talisman, which I see a lot of people actually probably don't know about. It just simply it teleports you back to the last shrine you went to. So Lesser Yaoguai are you're just like your simple enemies in the game. These are your bare bones enemies. Like you're probably not dying to these guys. They're just randomly roaming around the world. Maybe they overwhelm you in numbers, stuff like that. Like these guys probably aren't going to be killing you. Now, Yaoguai Chiefs are like your mini bosses. You may die to them like once or twice, but like generally, most of these are pretty easy. It kind of depends. Like these Ba Lees, like Lang Li, like these are the frog bosses. Like these guys, like they're more like built around like having low health, high damage, and in like certain parts of the game, they have the like their elements. They got like gimmicks in there. Like you got like phase 1s, phase 2s. The royal family here is a pair of bosses, which this game actually does quite a few times. It does it a lot in Chapter 5 in particular. But, yeah, I mean, there's not really much to say about these. Like, generally, like, these guys are, they're like mid-tier. Like, you're not gonna be struggling with them that much. Except non-able. This guy kicked my ass for some reason. I don't know why, but the way this guy attacked, he just kicked my ass for a very long time. Way longer than he should have. Yeah, this is what I mean by Chapter 5. Like, quick as fire, fast as wind, cloudy mist, misty cloud, top takes bottom, bottom takes top. All of these are dual bosses, like 2 people, and it's back to back to back. I'm not a huge fan of that. Then you get into your kings. Your kings are your big bosses. These are typically the bosses that are going to be giving you a hard time. These are the bosses that are at the end of a chapter. They're the bosses at like the midpoint of a chapter. Like Wing Juxi, I think this one's at like 25 to 30% through Chapter 1. Then you have the longs. Now the longs, you have to get the long scales in Chapter 2, and then you go back to like these waterfall areas throughout like the first 4 chapters, and that's how you find the longs. The longs they tend to be a bit harder than the other kings. Outer Jinchi. Now this one was quite an odd one because it is the same boss as the Wandering Wight, but different because he has like a phase where he heals. It was kind of weird. Some of these, like Fubin, so these bosses are what I would consider like giant bosses. Now, like there's also like chiefs that could be like associated like with that giant category. Giant bosses in this game are kind of rough. They have really bad hitboxes. I'm not sure if the game devs are going to try to like address that, because what typically happens like for like a lot of these like longs or big enemies, your camera just kind of like flicks up and down, or it's really hard to see the enemy or get like good hits in because your camera's just all over the place. Like Kang Jin Long, I think, is one of them that was like just super bad hitbox. I ended up first trying her, but I could tell if I didn't first try her, I probably wouldn't have been having fun for a good hour. Captain Wise Voice, I think, is another one that was just freaking huge. Yellowbrow has given some people some trouble. I don't know about that one. Depending on which boss you got stuck on, Scorpion Lord is probably the hardest boss in Chapter 4. It's either that or 100-Eyed Taoist. Now, that 100% depends on whether or not you use the Weaver's Needle. If you use the Weaver's Needle from defeating Duskvale, the 100-Eyed Taoist fight is, like, not even difficult at all. Beast v Beast, it wasn't that difficult. Giant Shigandang. This boss is weird. Now, when I'm talking about giant bosses, I want you to imagine, like, even more giant now. Like, I want you to imagine, like, continental-sized giant. This boss is just kind of weird to play against. I found it kind of boring. You would just sit still, like, all the way at the edge of, like, where he can't hit you, because he can't move. So you would just sit there and, like, walk towards him a little bit. You'd swing. I completely miss you, because obviously you can't walk forward. And you would just walk back toward, like, once he, like, does his scripted combo, you just walk towards him, whack some stones, and then he dies. It's honestly kind of stupid. And that also reminds me of, there's a lot of mechanics that certain bosses have where you can't damage the boss back while they're doing them. And this game does that a lot. Like, there's a particular boss in Chapter 5. I'll throw up a clip here. I think like also like the yellow long, he's also got, and there's also like ones like they teleport, you can't hit them while they it's just annoying stuff like that where the boss is doing stuff, but you can't do stuff to the boss. It's not very fun. And yeah, I guess something should be said. There is a lot of enemy variety. I mean, as you can see from the numbers here, 90 Lesser Yao Guai, 55 Yao Guai Chiefs, 26 Yao Guai Kings. You got 32 like random characters. Characters are basically they're just important figures throughout the story. Like you'll probably like find these after completing a chapter or doing a side quest. Like most of these are like keepers. Like this is a keeper. This is a character you meet in chapter 4. Like stuff like that. Well, I guess like another minor thing to mention, like just like in Ghost of Tsushima, you can go to meditation spots and it'll give you like a little I guess it's like an animation. It just pans through the landscape. It's super serene and it gives you a spark. Which reminds me, you get a lot of XP and it's also very easy to grind out XP. And when you level up, you acquire things called sparks. As you can see, I have 11 sparks right now. Once you hit New Game Plus, you actually gain increased XP from killing enemies. So I'm always loaded with sparks, and I don't even really feel like spending them. And what's meant by this 4 banes here, you know, it's just elements, like in other games. So like in this game, you have scorch damage, fire damage, frost damage. Now this will like slow you down, completely freeze an enemy, or freeze you. Poison, obviously it works like poison. You have Thunder, where if you get fully procced with Thunder, you take increased damage from sources, which is probably the most devastating out of all of them. I would say the most annoying to deal with is Thunder, and maybe like Frost, and then Poison and Fire. Poison and Fire are kind of equal in that regard. It's just damage over time. Really nothing to it. So at the Ruyi scroll, all the characters you meet that can like improve your stuff or help you out, they will all meet here, and they're all deities in their own regard. So like right here we have Zudog, and he'll make medicines for you. Now he gives you the option to make either mortal medicines, which in this game you can make medicines. Sound like a broken record again. Increase your like stamina, gives you more mana, regens your mana, can revive you, all types of bullshit. Then celestial medicines, these you get from like maybe like chests, from defeating like pseudo bosses in the lesser Yao Guai category. You get these just from a whole bunch of random stuff in this game, and these are more like, these are all stat increases. So you can see on the right, like those are all the things you can increase. At this point in the game, since I've had to do a ridiculous amount of farming for items, I have a lot of mine cores. And that reminds me,
More unfair are the innate skills.
999 RIP Juice WRLD. So yeah, that's those two that I've showed you. We got Yin Tiger over here as your classic blacksmith. We got our man Chenlong here. Now, what Chenlong does is, when you go throughout the game, there are 15 different types of seeds. And basically there's a small, insignificant chance when you go around the world and you pick plants, you will actually pick up their seeds. And this chance it's not good. For example, it takes 30 minutes for the plants in a region to respawn. For reference, it took me probably about 4 separate runs. And this is, at this point, I'd collected maybe half the seeds just like randomly by chance. There's also random chiefs throughout the game that pop out of the ground that are like hidden enemies. And these are like secret bosses, kind of, almost. And these guys will actually give you seeds as well, which is a much easier way of acquiring the seeds. I wish they completely got rid of this RNG factor. And this RNG factor isn't just for the seeds. It's about, you can acquire all your seeds right here.
What he says.
You said it, brother. So yeah, this is also a problem for a variety of things. So curios, most curios you're gonna get from like bosses, chests, stuff like that. Another way of getting your curios are, unfortunately, some bosses in the game, in their drop table, they have curios. So that means you have to sometimes farm a boss for, in my case, it almost always was about an hour. Another interesting fact is you can actually acquire multiple of the same curio, which I thought was a bug, but it might just be a quirk in the game for making better builds. I'm not too sure I really like that decision, but whatever. And then another important thing, so to illustrate this, let's go talk to my boy Yitai.
What rags and tatters. No wonder you're at my door.
Alright, well fuck you too. So, he'll allow you to craft weapons, armors. You can also do this at shrines. Except upgrading armor. Upgrading armor, I believe, is only Yitai can do it. Or like a blacksmith in general. And you'll see it requires like crafting materials that you pick up from enemies, chests, stuff like that. Now, a big problem I have with this is that some of the materials for crafting, you actually can't craft all the armor and weapons in the game in your first playthrough. You need to do a new game plus in order to craft every single thing in the game. I wouldn't really mind because like obviously like you're gonna unlock new weapons and armors, like of course like that makes sense. You can't get everything in your first playthrough, but I more specifically mean they don't give you enough resources to do it. So even if you wanted to, you can't. And this is especially a problem that I'm seeing in New Game Plus, where even after kind of going through and be defeating all the bosses twice in a row, like I have a good amount of resources, but it would probably take me 3, 4, maybe 5 or 6 New Game Pluses to fully upgrade everything in this game, which is kind of insane. And I'll also say there is I would almost say it's a little bit disappointing that so many sets in this game are built around set bonuses. So like you see here, like I need to have 2 of the set to get that first bonus, and I need 4 of the set to get that second bonus, which it doesn't really open up the possibility for like unique armor configurations, because why would I ever only use like 2? Like this armor is kind of like unique in that regard, because like that 4th effect, like some people might not want that, so maybe you could like do a 2-2 build. But like generally, like you'll see like for most of these builds, like you generally just want to build all 4, and it kind of just like kills like mixing and matching armor. Alright, I've been talking for a hell of a long time. I've literally been talking for a fucking hour. I don't even know how that's possible. Yitai is the only boss I can fight in the game at this point, besides the end boss. So we're gonna fight Yitai, illustrate some of my points with 3 stances. Yo guys, this is post Zenkai. So I feel like there wasn't enough like actual like combat in this part. So what I'm going to do is, I do actually have about 5 clips of really close moments from boss fights that I had. So what I'm going to do is, I'm going to put all those right here so you get a better idea of what the actual fights in the game look like, because these Yitai fights are kind of just a joke. Yeah, like, see, like, I'm not playing very good right now, but my stats are just absolutely insane. So, like, this fight's really not even difficult. Like, you see, like, my first point, like, with pillar stance, like, you see, I'm sitting up here. I'm not taking any damage. I'm just using my stamina. Like, I was just chilling up there. Now, I haven't even, like, tried to use my clones in this fight. I'm honestly curious if my clones would one-shot this entire fight. Very Souls-like in the regards where you can dodge into somebody and you won't take damage. The game, honestly, is not a Souls-like. A lot of people call it a Souls-like. This game is not a Souls-like. I wish people would compare it less with Souls-likes. It's more similar to Souls-like in different regards. Not really the combat. The only thing from the combat, like, that's super Souls-like is all this dodging that I'm doing. Like, this game isn't like a Sekiro. Like, it doesn't have a parry, unless you count Rock Solid as a parry. Like you see, and Bing Bang boomed him with the smash stance. And you see, like with all these stat bonuses I have, like the Yin Tiger, a lot of people struggle with this boss. He's not even like remotely difficult at this point in the game, which I think is a kind of a problem with New Game Plus. It's a little bit too power fantasy, which some people like. I don't think it's that fun. I can try out thrust stance. Now, the thing I don't like about thrust stance is while you're just sitting here charging up your ability, it's not like pillar stance, like where you're safe. Now, I have a lot of stagger bonuses, so I'm not getting staggered right there, but I think generally against many bosses, you would get fucked up right there using thrust stance. Actually, you know, let's try out the clones real quick, see how much damage they do. You see this armor set is absolutely disgusting, by the way. So, there's an ability for mobilize. After you use a spell, your clones do more damage, so the clones are just absolutely going to wreck him. Then we'll just cloud step away. He doesn't even know where I'm at. The clones will just continue to beat him up while I do nothing. Hell, maybe we'll whip out a thrust stance and whack him, and he's dead. Now, I think in like some ideal universe, you would want to be using like these three stances interchangeably, like you probably would in Ghost of Tsushima. Now, counter argument, some stances have set bonuses for armor in this game, so like some bonuses are only good with like pillar stance. Like another thing I should mention is this game does have spears. There's certain upgrades and they change up the way your attacks go. I'm actually not a fan of spear gameplay, quite frankly. Like it's like the stabbing motion. You do like this, like you like thrust forward like that. I'm not really a fan of it. I'm much more a fan of just the regular staff. And you got your classic transformation. My transformation is actually Yin Tiger. So Yin Tiger versus Yin Tiger. And Yin Tiger has a pretty badass final attack right here. I missed, but imagine if that hit. He's also Yin Tiger is he's one of the faster. He's not like super fast. He's a bit slow. I mean, I feel like with all the transformations they're a bit slow, but I think a big bonus with Yin Tiger is that he can do these attacks, heavy attacks, and he can also block like this, which is very helpful against a lot of bosses. And it's especially helpful because if you can beat Yin Tiger like as early as possible, I can try out the Weaver's Needle right here. See, it's just gradually picking them off. And then we can use the Earth Wolf right here. It's probably going to kill him. And you see, the damage is just absolutely disgusting at this point in the game. So the way Churning Gale works is, so you're like attacking him, and while you're mid light attack combo, that's another thing this game has. A bunch of scripted damage like this. I hate scripted damage. I think it's boring. Because like they have like these giant hitboxes with like the damage, and it's I hate it. It feels so bad when you get hit by it. And some bosses just have like a million different forms of it. Yin Tiger is obviously, as you can see, one of them. Alright, bro. Which is bullshit. I hate that. We're gonna try to... That is one of the problems with Earth Wolf and some of those bigger transformations, that you can just completely miss your target. Another thing I like about pillar stances, like obviously, like thrust stance, you would think is the long range option. But pillar stance, like actually, like look at the pole real quick. They staggered me right there. That's unfortunate. So like let's look at pole, like let's look at the thrust stance real quick and see how far it goes. So it like went out to like about this rock right here. Try to line it up in the same spot again. Now let's do the same thing with pillar stance, and we'll see just how far it goes. Yeah, it went like right around here. So actually, the pillar stance is arguably just as long range as thrust stance, while also having the AoE capabilities and the single target damage boost, on top of being able to drink your gourd on top of it, while also being safe from enemies, while expending your, at this point in the game, ridiculously large stamina pool. That's why I think pillar stance is the best stance in the game. Now, we could be all here all day talking about boss design. Some bosses just have really bad hitboxes. Generally, most bosses in this game aren't really that bad. Generally, new players are going to struggle with the Wandering Wight. That's going to be your first kind of hard boss. And then I believe the Tiger Vanguard is going to be your next hard boss. And then like beyond that, once you hit like chapter 3 or 4, you'll just have like a spattering of hard bosses occasionally. And when I say hard boss, I don't mean like, man bro, I'm gonna quit the game, this is way too difficult. I'm more like, this boss is challenging, I'm going to be here for an hour of my life. If I am very receptive and learning the fight quickly, it will probably take me a couple of tries. Like that type of hard. This game is not really super difficult, but it's, in terms of difficulty, I would probably say it's a bit harder than Ghost of Tsushima. Maybe on par with like the hardest bosses in God of War. Something like that. And then we have to talk about this, the world design. Then this is just something I want to briefly mention. Now, I've showed you most of the world throughout my story section, and if you didn't watch that, like, I'm sorry, that's unfortunate, but I could spend like another hour talking about the way the world looks and like how things look in real life and all that kind of stuff. If you want to actually see like a comparison to what the things in-game look like in real life, you can check out this video right here. But like generally, I'm just going to say like, the game looks visually stunning. Now you see right now, I'm playing on medium, and I'm hitting about 70 FPS, so I'm chilling. I'm really not dropping down below 60 frames. Now occasionally, I will hit like lows of like a 20 or a 30. Maybe there's a memory leak, but if there is, it repairs itself very quickly and comes back up to the 60, 70, 80 frames range. So it's pretty good. This is post Zenkai again. I forgot to talk about bugs. I'm dropping all my clips and my bugs here. I'm really excited to get into it. I'm sure that it's not going to be buggy at all. What the fuck is that? What the fuck is that? Ayo, son, are you okay? I ain't never seen that before in my life. What the hell? So the beginning of the journey is the end, I guess. We're not going anywhere. Oh my god. Son, are you okay? I need to change up my brews. Oh, steel ginseng. Instantly gains a moderate amount of item material underscore description underscore KW left bracket focus closing tag. I wonder what that does.
朱长老跟你说了什么悄悄话？我且不计较从前血债，他倒好，竟还有如此大的敌意。这山里山外到处都是哥哥的手下，猴哥哥务必跟紧我。从前。
Guys, like, I just noticed this in post. look at this. What the hell is going on with his head? That's hilarious. What the... It's like the texture, like, isn't loaded for, like, half of a millisecond. Oh my god, that's hilarious. Hairy monkey? Less hairy monkey. Hairy monkey? Less hairy monkey. I haven't tried recently to play the game on high or ultra. I just, as soon as playing the first cutscene in the game, my frames were pretty bad, so I just dropped it down. And the game has been performing very well, and as you can see on medium, the game still looks pretty damn good. Now, one big problem with the way this world is designed, it's a lot more similar to, I would say, like God of War or Sekiro in the way that it is designed. It is not like a Ghost of Tsushima or Elden Ring where you could go anywhere you see or anything like that. And this game has an invisible wall problem. Now, in most games, the invisible wall, is invisible. You don't know that it's there. In this game, it is wholly apparent that it is there. So I would go over here. We'll be able to very clearly see where the invisible wall is. There is an invisible wall right here. It's not even... there's an invisible wall right here. You can't walk on that. You can see I'm gliding around places because of the invisible wall. Invisible wall right there. Invisible wall on that rock. All this enclosed area. That is one gripe with the way that the game is designed. You should probably just be making the landscape conform around your invisible wall. I probably shouldn't be running into the invisible wall myself. I should be running into a rock that is an invisible wall. Stuff like that. Then just something minor. Some of the chapters, I find that they drag on way too long. And this is wholly apparent when you go into the shrine menu. You can just tell which chapters drag on way too long by the amount of shrines they have. So, we go into Blackwind Mountain on a very, very average, chill. Now, chapter 2, you got some short areas. Generally, these areas aren't very long. Now you get to New West, and this is where you start to encounter a problem where you have things like Pagoda Realm, which we'll get to Pagoda Realm. It has a ridiculous amount of shrines, and it's very easy to get lost in these areas. The Webbed Hollow is even worse in this regard, where you go to the Webbed Hollow and you are just inundated with a cave of shrines randomly just thrown around the area. It is not fun finding your way around that area. And this area and Flaming Mountains, I think Flaming Mountains was fine. If I had to rate the chapters in terms of like how I liked the world, I would say I like 1 the most, then 2, then 5, then... Now this is a hard one. I'm actually probably gonna go with Webbed Hollow over New West, purely for the fact of Pagoda Realm. Now, Pagoda Realm is odd in the regard that most areas in this game do not actually allow you to fall to your death. So, like, the invisible wall problem that I mentioned earlier, if you run into the invisible wall, you will not fall off the map. You will not be falling... Riza. Sorry, my dog's making a lot of noise right now. See, now, fall damage is an interesting thing in this game. Now, up until Pagoda Realm, which... Riza! Now, up until Pagoda Realm, I actually didn't realize that this game had fall damage. And, like, for reference, Pagoda Realm is in Chapter 3. I got halfway through the game before I realized the game had fall damage, or that you could fall to your death. And Pagoda Realm is really a look into the future of what this game probably would have looked like if they didn't have all these invisible walls. Because these enemies just fly out of nowhere, touch you, and you fly a mile away off the map. You're dead. Then they have the Guardians that are just intent on making your life hell. They will pick you up, throw you right off the edge, and laugh at your family. And the last thing I'm going to mention about the way the map is designed, this game does not have a mini-map or like a actual map system, which I don't think this game needs a map system, but the problem that I'm talking about with like Pagoda Realm, a lot of the areas in Chapter 3, because Chapter 3 is just a snowy, mountainous area everywhere. That's all it looks like everywhere you go. So it gets very confusing. A map would be helpful. A map would definitely be helpful. But like I said, it's not needed. It would just be helpful. In fact, I think there's actually... I think someone actually has modded in a simple map to the game. Yep. Yep, something like this. Someone has actually already added a simple map into the game. Now, this kind of looks bad. It's kind of... like, no offense to this guy. Like, good work, guy. You clearly you did a good job. But this kind of looks like a step above a Starfield map. Which is, like, non-existent and then Starfield map. And this is a bit above that. Like, it's got, like, color. You can see the outlines. Maybe I'm being a little bit harsh. This is, like, 2 or 3 steps above a Starfield map. Starfield maps are fucking terrible. I'm not even entirely sure how I'm going to edit this together. I didn't want to do a script for this section, but, like, dude, I've prattled on for an hour and 20 minutes. I didn't even know that was possible. Hopefully this section of the video isn't just the most boring thing imaginable. It probably is. I'm sorry. I'm sorry for that. I mean, it's probably going to be boring. I mean, there's not much I can do when I'm talking about stat blocks and builds and stuff like that. So the last thing I want to touch on is the music in this game. The music in this game is ridiculously good. Now, I'm no music connoisseur or anything, but this game has a very good mixture of just your hype tracks, your ambience. It's really just, it's got everything. So I think for this section, I'm gonna do a lot less talking, and I'm just gonna show you the songs that I liked the most from the game, and then we'll use that to wrap up the video. So thank you very much for watching. I hope you have a good one, and bye-bye!
在初见的角头，忘了是心田的沟。
吉他是老饕的酒，
知音是相拥无言。
愿天黑画到你，总会说不够。
看花落，如我可以躲，别笑我，笑我。我把心酸。我没错。
就贴即时却无力，大手铁炮造虎旗，枪刀剑剑慌不比，时候死你不死你。
翻过了山，路走不完，成了大道，大地凋零依然，得了千秋功名， 千千万生灵涂炭。故事被谱成曲，全是粉河。